there is a risk in anything that anyone does, whether it's retirement or whether it was the job. There is risk. Risk is pervasive. It's almost everywhere. So the fact that you are retiring early, it simply means that there are risks that are associated with retiring early, just as there are risks that are associated with anything else. So you just need to be cautious. That's the overarching sort of theme that I'm making sure that you understand. Getting to where you are has required you to go through certain processes in your life, and you have attained some disciplines very well, or certain learnings in your life that has gotten you to where you are. So some of those learnings that you have achieved and accumulated and amassed over the many years of your life will still be important in the many months or in years to come, because you need them. The fact that you are retiring early itself is an opportunity for you as well to transform your life and take a path of life that you really have been desiring to have. But it's not a time to abandon the disciplines that you had accumulated over time. There are two types of risks. Risks that you can control. Those we call them manageable risks. You can manage them because you can control them. Obviously, the control is not 100%, but you can do something to minimize your exposure or minimize your chances of being affected by those risks. Then there are risks that are totally beyond your control. The ones that I would call uncontrollable risks. Those ones, you have nothing that you can do about them. So you just need to be aware of that they exist. You need to find what you can do about them, but certainly there isn't much. Those are not the majority either. They are a small percentage of risks, especially the ones that you don't control. They are a small percentage. The majority of the risks, you can do something about them. So the topic of risk should not overweigh you, but it's something that is very important to know, that there is risks in anything, but try to find ways of minimizing them. So know them and find ways of minimizing them. Don't be oblivious to them. If you're oblivious to them, they will affect you. You can do something about them. For example, dealing with your fixed properties, you can make decisions that change the risk profile. You could take insurance. That's something that you can do, but you need to assess. It's not all about just taking insurance. You need to assess whether there's a risk of losing, because insurance itself does not prevent risk, it minimizes risk. But you need to also understand whether there is a risk of loss and how significant is it. If it's very low and you don't think that it will materialize, you might probably do without insurance, or you might insure yourself very lightly or just a small portion. But risks that are associated with the land that is not developed, there are usually very few risks. They become a little bit high when you are considering doing any projects or construction. You would find that if you are going to construct on the land, you don't know the cost, and you don't know how long it's going to take to construct. You don't know what regulations will be applied when the actual construction takes place. The cost of material, you don't know. So those are the ones that are a little bit high. That's why the preference is that you shouldn't go into retirement with a construction project, because it can create a huge expense. But if it's just one that you have control of, it's not to say you shouldn't involve yourself in a construction project. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that whenever you get into one, make sure that you have a higher degree of control, because what you don't want is to have uncertainty increasing in retirement, because you are now relying on the income of your assets. Your assets then should be giving you money. If you are taking money from your assets and investing in a new project, you must have a high degree of control. So even when you retire, you can still invest in construction. I'm just trying to make it clear so that you don't think that I'm saying there are no opportunities in early retirement. They are. What is important is control. Financial investments are a little bit much easier to manage, but they are equally very volatile. You can lose money very fast with them. I'm sure you have had experience of investing on the stock market and you know what can happen. So it is important to make sure that you don't lose money. That is the underlying thing that I'm trying to emphasize, to make sure you understand. It's not that you shouldn't invest. It's to make sure that you must become as selfish as you can to invest in projects that are unlikely to lose money. If they do lose money, it shouldn't exceed 20% of the money that you have. All I'm trying to say is that don't constrain yourself, but equally don't take too much risk. Constrain yourself in the sense of not investing entirely. No, that's not what I'm saying. Take some money and put in growth shares, but put in the ones that you have a high degree of confidence. I never want to encourage clients to go for penny stocks that still need 10 years or 15 years to make a profit. If you're an early retiree, you're just creating a little bit of challenge for yourself. Unless you're going to pick a job, you're willing to come back to work and run with it again, you can die. It's almost like putting your hand hand in the mouth of a crocodile and say, let me see what happens. It's asleep, that's okay. You need something to lean on, a fallback position, which, this is solid, it's going to come. If it's rent from a tenant, they are going to pay per month. Unless the tenant has moved out, you can understand. But if the tenant is there, they need to pay that much and there's no story. You can work your life around that amount. Have a fallback position, something that you can work with, that something solid that you can touch to say, this, I know it's, even if things get worse, but there's this thing that is solid, I can rely on it. Then you can then take a small portion and buy a lottery ticket, and if I buy a lottery ticket, I can win. Yeah, that's okay. You can do that. But you can't put all your eggs into the lottery ticket and say, at the end of the month, I'm going to buy a house after I've invested in a lottery ticket. No, it's not an investment. And also the other thing that I wanted to say is that it is good to know about the stocks that are on the market yourself, rather than for someone to know it for you and invest. Because, every time you send money to an agent to invest for you, they will tell you there are good stocks that are like this. Normally, they don't understand your life and exactly what your family situation is and what you want to do and why you are wanting to invest. They are paid on a commission. So whether they make a bad decision or not, they don't suffer anything. They also get their money. It's a very painful thing to say, but that is the truth. Obviously, I don't want to say it like that as if I'm being sensitive to the situation, but I also know that that's what they do. I prefer people to learn to read financial statements, get a few things right. Obviously, it's a small upfront investment, so preserve the money that you have. Learn to read stocks, learn to invest yourself, and save yourself the hassle of relying on another person who will be taking a commission from you. It might require you to keep reading the newspaper or reading articles and so on and so forth. There's also publicly available investment information. Nowadays, information that you need is available. You just need to know where to get it and why you should get it from there. But try to get as much certainty about the investment you have. 80% of your portfolio, let it have some kind of certainty, because one thing you don't want in early retirement is to be worried about money, because you have too much time to think. Because you are at home, you have plenty of time, you start worrying about money, you have a psychological problem, an emotional problem, all the other problems will start dropping onto your lap. That's why I'm talking about a fallback position. You need money that is certain, and that fallback position is money that's going to come from investments which gives you a greater degree of certainty. Risk is not all about money, but sometimes risk can emanate from your physical health, your psychological and emotional health, and that will equally cost you money, perhaps even much more, and hemorrhaging, because at the end of the day, why are you retiring early if you can't maintain your health? You are the asset. You need to look after yourself. You are the asset that you have been working all these years for, so that you can have a good time. I'm drawing attention to yourself in the context of risk. Don't neglect yourself, because if you do, you miss the other point of working hard and investing. This is the time for you to be selfish. Obviously, I'm not talking about this in a negative sense. I'm talking about it in a positive sense of looking after yourself, taking care of yourself, just as you have been all these years. You have cultivated many good habits that you still need. Those habits and efforts that you are putting to live your life in a better way are still just as important as they are many years into the future. You still need to wake up, do some activity to keep yourself physically fit. You still need to have friends or activities that make you laugh. It's good for your health, they say. You still need time to connect with your spiritual being, whatever that means for you. You probably know. Either it might involve you going out to be alone, yoga, going to church, whatever that is. You need that connection. People say that, I wish I had money, I would otherwise be happy. That is not true. Money doesn't make people happy. Money just amplifies what you already are. Because people think that because you can afford anything you want, then you should be happy. That is not necessarily true. There is an element of emotional being that comes into play. I can't lecture you this, probably know this much better than me. Connected, the experience you have already had, probably know many mistakes people have made that ended up jeopardizing their emotional and physical and psychological health. Reflect on those things and apply them so that you can have a better quality of life in your retirement than you had when you were working. At the end of all this, I'm saying life is a question of balance. Save some money, don't overspend. Enjoy your money. Don't forget about yourself, because you need to enjoy, to have the pleasures of life. That is the reason why you were working. Find find things that you actually like and make sure you maintain that balance between being thrift and allowing yourself to spend a little bit more on things that you like. I'm not saying forget about budget at all. That is a discipline that you have cultivated over many years. It has taken you this far. It works, but always create an opportunity for you to enjoy your money and do some things you love. Maybe need a big meal with friends every Friday or so, whatever that is for you. Then exercise, run, walk, whatever exercise you would want, because the body needs physical exercise. You can't be sitting all along and saying, no, I'm retired, I don't need to do anything. The last part I was saying is just being aware of factors that are beyond your control. You will never be able to cover yourself and prevent yourself from being affected by the macroeconomic environment, for example. There is part of the risks that you can't control. Things like inflation. It happens and affects everyone, which is why I want you to guard jealously. Guard jealously what you have already accumulated. Don't start listening to new ideas about how to make you more money in retirement. Someone comes to you and say, no, there's the new cryptocurrency that have just been introduced. If you input 20,000, you get 100,000. Those are not very good gambles, because what then happens is you are going to draw from your investments and you give someone and the money disappears. That is the last time you hear from that person who say, no, the currency collapsed. While I'm saying that, I'm also equally saying that there's nothing wrong with you taking a smaller amount of money and putting into crypto. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in crypto. Neither am I saying you shouldn't take a smaller amount of money and buy a lottery ticket. That's not what I'm saying. You can do that, but make sure that you don't make that the mainstay of your retirement or raise your hopes high, because while you are retired, there will be many people approaching you to try and find out how much money you have and how much money they can get from you now that you've retired. It's different now, because right now you are running around, you don't have much time. You are running around to work, you need to cook, you need to do this after you come back. But when you are retired, people know they are always at home and they'll come with many temptations to try and get something from you. So in conclusion, I try to plant a thought in you that you take the decision of early retirement as a personal decision, because people are going to be asking, why did you decide to early retirement? Be prepared for what you're going to say so that it doesn't become or shock you every time a person asks you that question, because they're going to ask you, people will be asking you, say, but you still fit. Why did you? I'm preparing you that you need to understand in yourself, in your heart first, that this is a personal decision. It's necessary. It's your me time. You don't need to apologize for retiring early. You don't need to explain to anyone. No one needs to place an obligation on you. It's your choice. Equally, make sure that the reason why you are deciding to early retire is not because you are stressed at work. Because if you are stressed because of a job, probably you don't need early retirement. What you need is to take a career break or a long service leave, whether it's paid or unpaid, and just go somewhere and sit down under a tree and just go and reflect on your life. If you are convinced you are on the right track, then stick to it. Whatever that has brought you here to this stage, you need to celebrate it, but don't throw it away because you are planning to retire. You need it just as important as you have always held the disciplines of saving, the disciplines of investing, the disciplines of checking things carefully. Retirement does not make anything less important. The most important thing is make sure you are the one who is in charge